Good morning. It's good to see all of you online today. I'm Michael Kyer with the OUUC Tech Team. I use he, him pronouns. Welcome to all who are joining us on whatever platform you are using. This Zoom service is being recorded and it is streaming live to YouTube. We use the Zoom chat feature for greetings, song lyrics, affirmations and applause, and items shared from the heart. The chat is not shared publicly or posted. If you experience any technical issues during the service, you can reach out to Joe Celine or another member of the tech team for assistance when the chat is on. Last, I hope you will find a candle or a chalice. In a moment, we can light them together. Thank you for your grace and adaptability. As we all remember, it's about connection, not perfection.
Good morning. Let's sing together. Our morning song is hymn number 188. Come, come, whoever you are. You can also find the lyrics posted in the chat. And we will sing what some people refer to as the descant, though you've broken your vow 1,000 times at the beginning and at the end. Take a nice big breath. Come, come. Sorry, we're going to do the descant. Here we go. Though you've broken your vow 1,000 times, though you've broken your vow 1,000 times, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Let's try that again. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Though you've broken your vow 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come. Welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation online worship service. We welcome each of you to this celebration of love and to this congregation. The OUUC community comes together in the mutual promises and possibilities of our covenant. We envision an interconnected world that is loving, just, and healthy. We commit to live out our mission to welcome and wonder, embrace and empower, bridge and become. We're so glad that you are here. My name is Sarah Lewis. I'm the Director of Community and Faith Development, and I use she, her pronouns. Leading worship with me today are members of our high school youth group who have been exploring the topic of reproductive justice this fall. Speaking for the group today are Leo Martinelli, Katie Love, Dionysus Lewis, and Ivy Gentian. Today, we join with other UU congregations who are also holding a Reproductive Justice Sunday, recognizing the anniversary of Roe v. Wade and the current challenges to reproductive justice in our country and the world. Also joining us in leading worship today are our minister, the Reverend Mary Geer, and Troy Fisher, our music director. We are grateful for the many hands that helped make worship happen this morning. Thank you to the breakout room hosts, the tech team members, and all who contribute in so many ways. After the service, everyone will have the chance to discuss reflection questions in a breakout room for a virtual coffee chat. This is a chance to gather with a small group to say hello and check in. Each breakout room will be hosted by someone to help make sure everyone knows each other and has a chance to share. We hope you'll join the discussion.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Mary and I use she, her pronouns. Just a few announcements today. Next Sunday, January 30th, please come by OUUC between 1 and 2 p.m. to drop off non-perishable food donations that we're collecting for the food bank. If you would like to donate money instead, that is welcome. You can drop that off as well, or you can mail it to the church office, and please clearly mark it Food Drive. Weather and volunteers permitting, we hope to also have hot beverages and a fire pit so we can socialize a bit with one another outside. This Thursday at 7 p.m., join Doris Faltis and I for the weekly spiritual practice. Doris will share some music for inspiration, including an original composition. Join us for a time of contemplation midweek to catch up with yourself. And last, the Environmental Action Team has a message to share.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Romer, speaking for the congregation's Environmental Action Team. We've been active in this congregation under a variety of names since near the beginning of this century. Our efforts to address climate change began in 2005. As the last year's extreme temperatures and wildfires and unusual storms have indicated, the challenge that climate change presents to our imperfect life on Earth requires our attention now more than ever. This month is January, the month we welcome the state legislature to Olympia. The environmental challenge this month is to write a letter or email to your legislators, a newspaper, or to other decision makers asking for strong support of legislative bills that will help Washington state fight the rising temperatures and rising tides of climate change. In OUUC's weekly newsletters this month, the Environmental Action Team includes information on specific policies and legislative bills, including incentives for purchasing electric cars, requiring new buildings that are all electric, and funding for sustainable electrical energy production. Use the details there, or just write a note to let our state senators and representatives know that you are concerned. Let them know how climate change is affecting other public health, economic, and societal issues that concern you. Do it this month, or better yet, make a resolution and develop the practice of contacting decision makers regularly. Let them know your concerns and your priorities for their actions. Thank you.
There are many opportunities to stay connected to each other and to our community. Please check the website regularly, and if you have any questions or need help, please reach out to a staff member. Now, let us open our hearts and minds as we prepare for worship. Welcome, everyone. It is good to be together.
This morning and every Sunday morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. Please join me as we light our chalice, together with these words by Paul's preacher. We light this chalice in memory of the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who have struggled for justice, and the love of those who've built beloved communities to carry on the light of hope.
Our opening words are offered by Katie Love in an original poem. The winter sun rises above our hallowed heads. May we look into the new shining light creeping above the horizon and find that light in our hearts, in our very singing souls. May we see our completeness, that each we hold in our hands, that each we have a sun inside of us, blazing as strong and unrelenting as we. May we see the light of others and be constellations in our world's eyes. Come, let us worship together.
Let's sing together our opening hymn, hymn number 300, out of the gray hymnal, With Heart and Mind. You can also find the lyrics for the hymn posted in the chat. With heart and mind and voice and hand, may we this time and place transcend, to make our purpose understood, a firm commitment to the goal of justice, freedom, peace for all. Amid that's free to seek the truth, a mind that's free in age and youth, to choose a path no threat impedes, wherever light of conscience leads. Our martyrs died so we could be a church where every mind is free. A heart that's kind, a heart whose search makes love the spirit of this church, where we can grow and each one's gifts are sanctified and spirits lift, where every door is opened wide for all who choose to step inside. Thank you for singing.
The story that I have for you today is called Everybody Owns Their Body. Angeline was 7 years old and was a happy kid. They had several good friends, a great home and family, and a wonderful dog named Skippy. They also had some wonderful grandparents that they loved hanging out with and got to see frequently. But one thing that Angeline didn't love was the way that their grandma liked to pinch their cheeks and hug them really tight. Angeline just didn't like it. It didn't feel good to them. But grandma pinched and squeezed and hugged every time she saw Angeline. Then, one day, Angeline was in a class at their church called Our Whole Lives, and they learned a new idea, that everybody has a body and everybody owns their own body. The class talked about ways to take care of their body and that they should tell people when and what kinds of ways they were okay being touched. It was a new idea for Angeline. When Angeline got home, they kept thinking about it. They had questions about this new idea. And so when their dad got home, Angeline asked to talk to him. "Dad, I've got a question," Angeline said. "Yeah, honey, what's up?" Dad replied. "Well, in class today, we learned that we all own our own body and that we can tell people how we like or don't like to be touched." "Oh," said Dad, "that's true. Well, what were you thinking about that idea?" "Well," said Angeline, "I was thinking that I don't like the way Grandma hugs me and pinches my cheeks. I know she loves me, but I just don't really like it. Do you think it would be okay for me to tell Grandma that?" Dad smiled. "Absolutely, honey. If you don't want a hug or you don't like having your cheeks pinched, you should say so." "What if Grandma doesn't like it?" Angeline asked. Dad was very thoughtful. "Well, honey, I think Grandma will understand, but even if she doesn't like hearing that you don't want a hug, you should still tell her. It really is your body, and you don't need to hug anyone if you don't want to. Do you want some help talking to Grandma?" Angeline thought about it. No, I can do it," they decided. So the next time they saw Grandma, they said, "I have something I want to talk to you about, Grandma." And Grandma smiled, and they sat down and they talked. Angeline told Grandma about not liking the hugs and the cheek pinches. And then they waited to see if Grandma would be upset. "Oh dear," said Grandma. "Well, dear, thank you for telling me. I guess I should have asked, but it was just my habit and I kept doing it. You know, I'm kind of a hugging person. I like hugs. But just because I like them doesn't mean that you have to. But tell me, is there any other way you'd like me to greet you or show my affection?" Another new idea. What were other ways to show that you love someone or to greet them? Said Angeline. They thought about it, and then they had an idea. "I know, we could have our own secret handshake." And so they did. They made up the most elaborate, silly handshake. And after that, every time Grandma saw Angeline, she'd say, "Want to do our handshake?" And Angeline would laugh and nod, and they'd go through their handshake routine, and it felt great. Thus ends our story.
We came together in community this morning, bringing all that is in our lives. We draw on the strength of our community to hold all that we bring here with us. This is a time that we share from our hearts, what brings us joy and sorrow, what brings us worry and delight, what makes us afraid and what makes us dance. Let's open our hearts to the complexity of life, our own and others. If you'd like to send in something to be shared here, look for the link on the website on the worship page, or just send me an email. You will hear a drum beat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of our community. So right now, let's just take a breath together, in and out. And let's open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our lives today. This past Thursday, January 20th, was the second anniversary of the first detected case of COVID in this state and in this country, just up the road in Kirkland, Washington. It's been quite a time. Let's just pause for a moment of silence to recognize this anniversary. And I'll place a stone in the water of our community in gratitude for life, for those who work to keep essential services going, and for the connections we have made and kept. I invite you now to share from your heart by entering in the chat. And as we take in what is posted, if you choose to, let's hear the heartbeat of our community and reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share. place a stone in the water for all that is being shared from the heart, a stone holding the complexity of our lives, held in the water of community. And one more stone in the water for all that we hold in our hearts and that remains unspoken. I invite you into a time of reflection, prayer, and meditation. Infinite web of life, spirit of love, great mystery that knows what we cannot. As we breathe in, may we feel the expansion of our lungs. As we breathe out, may we feel our shoulders lower. Our chest rises and falls as we breathe in gratitude for this life. On this day, the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, may we extend our hearts to all those who have contemplated parenthood, honoring the complexity of these decisions. Those who have chosen to parent, and those who have chosen not to parent. Those who wanted to parent and could not or did not, and those who are parenting now in these challenging times. We honor the complexity of these individual decisions that are all held in our community. Spirit of life and love, be with all who have chosen, that there may be peace with their choice. May we all have what we need. Justice demands that we support the right to choose. Justice demands easy and equitable access to the basic needs to support those choices. Justice demands safety, care, and enough. Justice is life and the law of love. On this day, we honor those who came before, who fought for basic human rights. We honor those who fight for human rights now. May the strength of our convictions carry the light of life and love to those with the power to protect those basic rights. May this be so. Blessed be. Amen. Let's hold a moment of silence together.
sing together hymn number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. You can also find the lyrics posted in the chat. Make channels for the streams of love, where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. But if at any time we cease such channels to provide, the very founts of love for us will soon be parched and dry. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have. Such is the law of love.
Our prayers and meditations deepen our gratitude for what we know as sacred in our lives and in this world. Each Sunday, we express our gratitude by joining together in service to our community and to something greater than ourselves. The offering collected here does two things. It supports the ongoing work of OUUC, which is also supported by your regular pledges. This offering also supports an organization that serves our community in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist values. Your generous gifts from November and December Share the Plate collection allowed us to send $2,706 to the May Day Foundation. Your generous Christmas Eve offerings added $1,149 to the Minister's Benevolence Fund. Thank you. For January and February, our Share the Plate recipient is Thurston Climate Action Team, TCAT. We have a video to share about their work.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melinda Hughes. I'm the Executive Director for Thurston Climate Action Team. You might know us better as TCAT. Basically, what we do is we work on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions around Thurston County. And we do that in several different ways. We work on different issues. The trees are big. We want to preserve trees, plant trees, educate people about trees. Transportation is another big area that we work on. We want to, see more people driving electric vehicles. We also work on buildings. Buildings is the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions for Thurston County. So we're working on getting everybody to use more electric versus fossil fuels. One of our newer groups we have right now is the Food and Ag group, who's working on different things, food security, composting, all kinds of good stuff in that area. We also have a group that is an equity group. Climate change, most of the problems actually have been caused by the wealthy nations. It's usually the populations with the lower income or racial disparities that are actually hit the hardest. So one of the things when we work on climate change, we also work on the justice side of things. You may actually have seen a few of the things we've done around town. If you drive to the west side across the 4th Avenue Bridge from Olympia, we have a climate justice mural in that roundabout. So that's a really exciting thing. So if you haven't picked up on that, you might want to drive across the bridge and look at that. We're hoping to do some more art projects similar to that around town. So that's something that maybe that actually your support may end up helping us do a little bit of, and we're also going to do some other art projects as well, whether it falls under like writing or dance or just art. But yeah, we want to say a big thank you for having us as the recipient of Share the Plates. What you all are doing is fabulous, and with climate change being so urgent, the timing is not better. So again, thank you all. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Melinda with Thurston Climate Action Team, and a big thank you and a Happy New Year.
Please note that you can participate in the offering by making a donation online through the church website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen in just a moment. You can also mail a check to OUUC. Here, we join together in our generosity to do so much more than any of us can do alone. May the offering now be generously given, as it is gratefully received. Thank you for your generous gifts. Our first reading is from the Sister Song website. What is reproductive justice? Sister Song defines reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children we have in safe and sustainable communities. Her story of reproductive justice, RJ. Indigenous women, women of color, and trans people have always fought for reproductive justice, but the term was invented in 1994. Right before attending the International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo, where the entire world agreed that the individual right to plan your family must be central to global development, a group of Black women gathered in Chicago in June of 1994. They recognized that the women's rights movement, led by and representing middle-class and wealthy white women, could not defend the needs of women of color and other marginalized women and trans people. We needed to lead our own national movement to uplift the needs of the most marginalized women, families, and communities. These women named themselves Women of African Descent for Reproductive Justice, and RJ was born. Rooted in the internationally accepted human rights framework created by the United Nations, reproductive justice combines reproductive rights and social justice. The progenitors of RJ launched the movement by publishing a historic full-page statement with 800 plus signatures in the Washington Post and Roll Call. Just 3 years later, in 1997, Sister Song was formed to create a national multi-ethnic RJ movement. We believe that reproductive justice is a human right. RJ is based on the United Nations internationally accepted Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a comprehensive body of law that details the rights of individuals and the responsibilities of government to protect those rights. About access, not choice. Mainstream movements have focused on keeping abortion legal as an individual choice. That is necessary, but not enough. Even when abortion is legal, many women of color cannot afford it or cannot travel hundreds of miles to the nearest clinic. There is no choice when there is no access. Not just about abortion. Abortion access is critical, and women of color and other marginalized women also have often difficulty accessing contraception, comprehensive sex education, STI prevention and care, alternative birth options, adequate prenatal and pregnancy care, domestic violence assistance, adequate wages to support our families, safe homes, and so much more.
If you could go back and fix your biggest mistake, would you? Mistakes are being made every day, but this is a huge mistake, not one that can be glued back together. And this mistake will destroy billions of lives. We need to stop denying it because it won't go away. My name is Ivy, and I'm here to discuss reproductive justice and intersectionality. As you hopefully know, the Texas Heartbeat Act is a piece of legislation that was proposed in the state of Texas that would make any abortion of a fetus beyond 6 weeks of age illegal. But it's not actually 6 weeks because they don't start counting at the missed period. They start counting after ovulation. So it actually equates to a 2-week late period. Most women don't even know they're pregnant yet, let alone have decided if they want to have an abortion or not. Abortion is allowed in only one case. This is Section A 171 subsection 205, which says, quote, Sections 171 subsection 203 and 171 subsection 204 do not apply if the physician believes a medical emergency exists that prevents compliance with this subchapter. This is extremely vague about what constitutes a medical emergency. There is no exception for rape or incest. And what's more, when the Supreme Court refused to overturn the Texas Heartbeat Act in spite of there already being legislation on the subject, politicians from at least 4 other states have expressed interest in mimicking this law and are encouraged by the Supreme Court's decision. First, is sexual assault on women and children common enough to add an exception? Here are a few statistics. 1 out of 3 women experience sexual violence at least once in their life. 30% of global trafficking victims are children, and 49% are women. So that means that almost 80% of trafficking victims are women and children. Great job, everyone. So proud. In 2019, 62% of trafficked people in the US were identified as sex trafficking victims. Again, in 2019, the Human Trafficking Hotline was contacted by 22,326 survivors and victims. These are just the people we know of. And people who have been able to contact the Human Trafficking Hotline, which seems like it might be kind of hard because, they're being trafficked. My point is that rape and incest are all too common to be left out of this legislature unless there's a darker intention than, quote, protecting unborn children, unquote. So this is what you see now, but it hasn't always been this way. It seems like we've taken big steps toward equity between the sexes, but have we? For many of us here, including myself, there was a lot of French and European in our blood. When the French elite bought, quote, the commons, unquote, most of the land worked like a community garden previously, where you don't have to buy a plot to grow. They now had control of food and other resources that the, quote, commoners needed. In this way, the elite were able to acquire servants to work the land in exchange for food and other resources. So this is what you see now, but it hasn't always been this way. Around this time, for Britain and Europe anyway, we see women being turned into a dangerous object or a hot commodity. They're being controlled, regulated, forced to marry, not allowed to leave the house without their husbands, etc., etc. We also see women being taken to other lands to populate the settlements, see the king's daughters, or being told by the Catholic Church that they can no longer use birth control. But before, women were respected for the enormous role they played as creators of life, as the link between this world and the spirits, and for their wisdom. They were taken seriously and protected. What do you think the future will bring? I only hope we manage to stop this oppression before women are eliminated altogether. It sounds absurd, but if men are able to reproduce, I see a world where women cease to exist. The patriarchy only wants us to bear children and be a plaything for men. That is the root of this entire issue. That mindset is the root of all oppression. This is why you can't pick sides. You are either for freedom or against it. This is the concept of intersectionality. It is not up to you to decide what things are right or wrong. You can and should decide what is right for you. In this way, everyone could be allowed to exist just as they are, and no one would be able to infringe upon another because we would all be supporting ourselves and each other. In conclusion, reproductive justice is pretty simple. The Texas Heartbeat Act has already had devastating effects on the women in Texas, and many politicians are eager to add more laws to control women's bodies. And how many laws are there on controlling men's bodies? Lastly, if you want a better world, you must fight for it in every way you can. Thank you for listening and watching.
Our second reading is by an unknown author. Here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when life begins. It doesn't matter whether a fetus is a human being or not. The entire argument is a red herring, a distraction, a subjective and unwinnable argument that could not matter less. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about a fertilized egg or a fetus or a baby or a 5-year-old or a Nobel Prize winning pediatric oncologist. Nobody has the right to use your body against your will, even to save their life or the life of another person. That's it. That's the argument. You cannot be forced to donate blood or marrow or organs, even though thousands die every year on waiting lists. They cannot even harvest your organs after your death without your explicit written pre-mortem permission. Denying women the right to abortion means we have less bodily autonomy than a corpse.
Let's talk about abortion. My name is Dionysus Lewis, and I'm a trans man. I use both he, him, and they, them pronouns. Reproductive justice is often seen as a woman's movement, but that's not true. There are millions of people who need access to abortion who aren't women, including myself. I understand the want for sisterly solidarity, the comfort of that, and I don't want to take that away from anyone, but it's vital to understand that that's not where the movement ends. It's global. It involves everyone regardless of gender, race, body type, and able-bodiedness. The high school youth group has been focusing on reproductive justice for the past 2 months, following a curriculum written by Jessica Halprin. There was an activity asking the question, when does life begin? One wall was conception, and it moved from viability to the opposite wall, birth. People placed themselves around the room, gravitating to one side or the other. I thought about my answer for a moment, then walked to my chair and sat down. The facilitator called on me, thinking I was closest to the conception wall, but I said I was boycotting the question. I didn't want to even entertain the notion, because I truly believe it doesn't matter. I think anti-abortion believers just use the concept of life beginning in the womb as an excuse against bodily autonomy. Now, you might be saying to yourself, whoa there, Dio, slow down. What's this bodily autonomy thing you keep talking about? Well, wonderful question, thank you. It's important to define, because bodily autonomy goes so far beyond abortion. Bodily autonomy, simply put, is someone having the right and opportunity to decide what is best for their body. Opportunity is the operative word there. It's not enough to have the right to an abortion. People need it readily available. Lack of access to abortions disproportionately affects poor people and people of color. It's not enough for abortion to be legal everywhere. It must be accessible to everyone, regardless of outside factors. It's not enough for abortion to only be accessible by white, able-bodied cis women. Intersectionality is absolutely vital for reproductive justice to actually be justice. The two main arguments I hear against abortion are that it's taking a life and that abortion allows sexual promiscuity. Let me address the latter first. It's a simple fact that even if people take precautions during sex, such as contraceptive measures, there's still a chance to get pregnant. No contraceptive measure has a 100% efficacy rate, and there's also the obvious fact that some people get abortions because they were raped, which has nothing to do with sexual promiscuity. And finally, there's nothing wrong with having sex or having a lot of sex. It does not make someone tainted or less pure than someone who doesn't have sex. Treating sex as taboo and dirty is just another way to restrict bodily autonomy. Now let me address the other argument. People say life is sacred, and they mean an unborn fetus's life is more sacred than the person carrying it. It's ranking lives by pointless criteria, making an untainted bunch of cells more important than a living, breathing person. It's like playing the trolley problem with a megaphone on the side of the tracks while the conductor is trying to make a decision that will keep them alive. People often see abortion as a moral issue, but it's not. It's a medical procedure, plain and simple. There's nothing moral or immoral about getting an abortion. It isn't better to get one for health reasons than to get an abortion because you don't want to give birth. No life is more important than another, and it does nothing but harm to treat unborn life like sainthood. Reproductive justice isn't an individual issue. It's a symptom of the oppression of the rich and corporate. The systems put in place have been designed from the ground up to put some above others in a false dichotomy carved into the heart of the United States. There is no reproductive liberation if there is no class liberation. There is no reproductive liberation if there is no racial liberation. There is no reproductive liberation if some other group is still chained. The world is in a terrifying place right now. Our rights have been placed on a scale of injustice, and we don't know which way it will tilt. But even if it tilts to our way, that is not enough. We can't keep relying on those in power, those who benefit from bodily autonomy being revoked, to give us what we deserve. We have to fight in community for the world we want to see. Thank you.
Let's sing together our closing hymn, hymn number 1017, Building a New Way. You can also find the lyrics for the hymn posted in the chat. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. And peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
We extinguish our chalices with The Work We Share by Krista Taves. It is our work, shared with each other in covenant, that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen and blessed be. May we move in peace.
Let's sing together our unison benediction. We are part of the web of life. We are part of the web of love. May our words, may our deeds pull the strands of the infinite web toward health, toward justice, toward love.